Hello. So our idea has materialized. Welcome. इथे बसतात म्हणून एकानेच माझे बाबा की त्या बरोबर ते लागलं तर मी सांगते तिथे उभे राहू नका त्याने बसायला कमी बसून मिनल आली नाही मिनल कुठे हां एक मिनिट इकडे म्हणजे तू तिकडे बसून काढायला सूत्रसंचालन ॲक्च्युली इकडे त्यांना चेअर असेल तर बरं पडणार तिथून केलं तर बरं पडेल ना सूत्रसंचालन मला ते मागे ठेवलं ना तर मी काय करतो माझे आहेत कुठले बदलू नकोस काय हां बरं ठीक आहे हां नाही इथे मागे जर त्यांनी ठेवलं ना हां तर ते इकडच्यांना असं मागे होतं दिसत नाही आउट ऑफ साईड होतं तर म्हणून मीच म्हटलं तर त्या साईडला ठेवलं नाही मग आमची काही सूचना तर काही असतील ना तर तिकडे प्रॉब्लेम अच्छा असं मला वाटतं का मेडच्या माईकचा प्रॉब्लेम माईक आहे का विचारलं स्पीकरचा माईक कॉर्डलेस आहे मग कॉर्डलेस घेऊन बस ना अजून एक चेअर घ्या आणि कॉर्डलेस द्या त्यांना रणखाम आणि योगेश सर आहेत म्हणजे त्यांची प्रेझेंटेशन पॉवर पॉईंट प्रेझेंटेशन आहे का कोणाची त्यांची कोणाची पॉवर पॉईंट प्रेझेंटेशन नुसतं बोलणार आहेत का विचारलं तुम्ही
विचारलं पण त्याने आपल्याला आपण ऑलरेडी अगोदर काल विचारलं
पॉवर पॉईंट प्रेझेंटेशन नाही नुसतं बोलणार आहेत का सर हे मागे पण बसले लोक We are going to do PowerPoint presentation or it's a, are you going to do PowerPoint presentation or it's a just deliberation?
I mean, I have prepared points, but it's not like a speech.
Okay.
So we can.
So you will talk, you will share the notes.
Yes.
Just I wanted to check with all the delegates so that if they need anything help for the PowerPoint presentation, we will like to get the copy.
No. I'll just make a very specific remarks.
Okay.
Share some things, but it's not a speech.
अजून कोणाची वाट बघतो कोण यायचं बाकी अध्यक्ष सोडून इतर देशांचं पैकी फ्रान्स बाकी नको ना आणि इन्फॉर्मल बोलते सगळं ऐकू द्या नाही ना
कॅनडा पण आहे.
कॅनडा पण अध्यक्ष किती आहेत
येतो मला सांगितलं त्यांनी.
हाय हॅलो
हो चालेल.
मला वाटतं निदान आपण इन्फॉर्मल इंट्रोडक्शन सुरू करू. जे लोक कॉन्सुलेटचे आहेत ना ते सोडून बाकीच्यांचे इंट्रोडक्शन घेऊ आणि मला 2-4 झालेत ना अध्यक्ष येतील आता तोपर्यंत आपण फॅलिसिटेशन आणि सुरू करायचं का बघूया. म्हणजे त्यांना विचार त्यांचे जे आहेत OSD त्यांना किती वेळ लागणार आहे. वेळ लागणार असेल तर आपण सुरू करू कार्यक्रम कारण बाकी 1-2 लोक आले तर सगळ्याचा आहेत. इकडची गर्दी कमी करा एवढे सगळं 4-5 लोकांची गरज नाही. त्यांनी पॅन्ट्रीत जा इकडे एखादी चेअर होईल. सत्तारा आले की माझ्या ओपनिंग रिव्हर्सच्या आधी आहे ना तिथे वस्तू रेडी ठेवायला सांगितली. इथे कोण बसले तुमच्या शेजारी कोण बसले मग त्यांना बसू द्या ना लेडीजना. हां नाही कोणाची बॅग आहे ती तुझी तू उभं राहणार आहेस. बरं बसलाय तुम्ही मग यांना एक चेअर नाही चेअर करून द्या ना त्यांना. तुम्ही इकडे या मॅडम इकडे इथे कोण बसले सगळे कोण आहे हां
थँक्यू सो मच.
नाही मग थोडं तुम्ही थांबा बाकीच्यांना त्यांना थोडंसं आपण प्रत्येक NGOला 1-1 जण आपण दिले रिप्रेझेंटेशन त्यांना एक बाहेर लिंक करून द्या बघा असं करा म्हणजे हां ओके वेलकम. ज्या संस्थांचे 1पेक्षा किंवा 2-2 आहेत ना प्रतिनिधी त्यांनी म्हणजे NGOज पैकी त्यांनी इकडच्या बाजूला आम्ही लिंक करून देतो. तिथे पण आपण सगळं झूमची लिंक आहे तर योगेश त्यांना तिकडे लिंक करून दे का स्क्रीनमध्ये. हे कोण देणार आहे शाली कोण देणार आहे मग 2 नसरे काय म्हणतात किती वेळ लागणार. हां हो विचारा ना कारण काय झाले सगळं आलेले आहेत आपण सुरू करायला पाहिजे. उगाचच लेट करणं म्हणजे बाकीच्यांना पण उशीर होतो ना. वेळ लागणार असेल तर आपण सुरू करूया. आपण नाही तू तिथेच थांबशील. नाही पण घेऊन त्यांना निरोप देतात अर्चना ते थांब अर्चना ते देतील निरोप. म्हणून मला तर ते थोडी इंट्रोडक्शन सुरू करू आणि जे CJ आहेत ना उभं राहून बोलणार का बसून बोलणार आहे? हां मग पुढे घे म्हणजे इथून
नमस्कार. Namaskar, Suswagatam. I welcome you all on this sunny monsoon afternoon to this symposium on feminist foreign policy and strategies to curb violence against women and measures taken for supporting human trafficking. Our chief guest for today is Mr. Honorable Advocate Rahul Narvekar ji, Speaker, Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, and all our speakers, the Consul Generals from Mexico, Australia, Germany, Canada, France, Japan, Netherlands, the Commissioner of Police Mumbai, and representatives of Stree Aadhar Kendra. I welcome you all on behalf of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Maharashtra. We will begin our symposium in a couple of minutes. It is not a mere coincidence that this symposium is being organized by our Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Maharashtra, but the fact that both the chairpersons leading both the houses of Maharashtra legislature have a serious concern about the subject matter. Dr. Neelam Gore, who is the first woman deputy chairperson of the Maharashtra Legislative Council, she has taken this initiative and has a varied experience of more than 4 decades in the field of women equality. Our speakers for today are representatives from all the stratas, from all the stakeholders, the policy makers, the lawmakers, honorable diplomats from various countries, the chief of agency maintaining law and order, and social activists who will definitely enrich us with their experiences, knowledge, and best practices. We will be having a small presentation from Jailam Joshi ji, who is a founder member of Stree Aadhar Kendra, and we will have a small session of open forum, open discussion. So we all are looking forward.
Schedule so that everybody knows, because some of them are not received a copy of the schedule. So you read the schedule in the meanwhile, so we'll be able to know how much time is allocated.
Yeah. I'll just read the schedule. After arrival of Honorable Rahul Narvekar ji, Speaker, Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, we will formally begin this symposium. Keynote and welcome note by Dr. Neelam Gore ji. Then we will be having one by one address. First, Honorable Adolfo Garcia Estrada, Honorable Consul General, Mexico. Honorable Ashim Fabik, Consul General, Germany. Honorable Majal Hind, Consul General, Australia. Honorable Dia Drakeli, Consul General, Canada. Honorable Dr. Yasakata Fukahori, Consul General, Japan. Honorable Bart Deng, Consul General, Netherlands. Then we will be having open forum Before that, we will be having a small presentation by Jailam Joshi ji and Shri Vivek Phansarkar, Commissioner of Police, will be addressing. In open discussion, we will be having Dr. Elena Remezau, Vice Consul, Russian Consulate, Dr. Prashant Narnavre, Commissioner, Women and Child Development, Maharashtra, Dr. Anup Kumar Yadav ji, Secretary, Women and Child Development, and Sanjay Saxena ji, Additional DG, Law and Order. Then we will be having concluding remarks by Honorable Dr. Neelam Gore ji. So this is a brief idea of how the symposium will be having flow.
Before we start the session formally, and up to the time waiting for Mr. Narvekar to come, I will request, in the meanwhile, we will have a small break if he arrives in the meanwhile, and then we will have complete the introduction. But I will request the NGOs and civil society representatives to do their introduction in very brief. So what I mean is one sentence, where you work and what's your good name. So I will start from where? Do we start? Please. तुमची द्या. नीट मोठ्याने शांतपणे वाक्य सगळ्यांना ऐकू येईल अशी बोला. माईक नसला तर माईक द्या प्लीज तिकडे त्यांना. हां. तर तुम्ही काय पडद्यात
digital task force and global secretary and military contact.
Namaskar, I'm Dr. Vaishali Vadhe and I'm working with Stree Aadhar Kendra.
Namaste, I'm Dr. Simran Kapoor and I'm an aspiring gynecologist.
Namaste, I am Prem Singh Rathod, Social Service Superintendent, JJ Hospital, Bhaikala, Mumbai 8.
या थोडी इंट्रोडक्शन चालली आहे तोपर्यंत एनजीओची आणि सेवेची प्लीज बसा.
Namaskar.
2 मिनिटं.
My name is Milind Bansode. I am from also JJ Group of Hospitals, Mumbai.
मेडिकल सोशल
Namaskar. My name is Sunil Patil, Grand Government Medical College and JJ Hospital, Social Service Superintendent.
Namaste, my name is Anjali Zodmate, Social Service Superintendent from Thane Civil Hospital.
Namaste, Sarika Chole from Civil Hospital Thane, Social Service Superintendent.
I am Srirang Sid, Psychiatric Social Worker from Civil Hospital Thane.
I am Pramod Nikalje from WCT Commissionerate Pune.
WCT, Women and Child Commissioner. ठीक है.
Namaste, Pablo Perez from the Consulate of Mexico.
Namaste, Teja Popatkar from the Consulate of Mexico.
Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste. This is Snehal from the French Consulate. I'm accompanying Mr. Jean-Marc Serre-Charlet, our Consul General.
Good afternoon and namaste. I'm Urvashi Asher from the German Consulate General, Mumbai.
Namaskar, everybody. My name is Michael Brown. I'm the Deputy Australian Consul General here with our Consul General.
Namaskar, I'm Yukta. I'm from the Australian Consulate.
Namaskar, I'm Rajesh Tarvi, Deputy Secretary, Maharashtra Legislature.
Namaskar, I'm Yogesh Jadhav, Deputy Chairperson, Personal Assistant.
Namaskar, I am Supriya Gotale. I am OSD to Honorable Device Chairperson Neelam Gori.
Namaste, I am Ravindra Kheburkar. I am Private Secretary to Dr. Neelam Gori.
Mr. Singhania, तुमची वेळ द्या.
Good afternoon, this is Anand Singhania. I'm the immediate past president of the INC Chamber of Commerce, and at the personal level, I'm part of the JK group. Thank you.
Namaste, this is Meghna Talekar, Joint Secretary, Maharashtra Legislature Secretariat. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Myself, Meenal Joglekar. Our chief guest for this inaugural session, Honorable Advocate Rahul Narvekar ji has just arrived, and we will begin our session. Sir, as we were discussing, we had a formal, informal introduction, and we have stakeholders from various stratas, like we have policy makers, lawmakers, then honorable diplomats from various countries, and the chief of agency maintaining law and order, especially in Mumbai, and the social activists and we will be having a good discussion in this symposium.
Please, we'll tell also our honorable officers to introduce themselves, so that before they do presentation, they will know with whom they are talking properly.
Myself, Dr. Ravindra Shisve. I am Commissioner of Police, Railways, Mumbai.
I am Suhas Bharti, IG Law and Order.
I am Dr. Prashant Nagarajan, Commissioner, Women and Child Welfare, Maharashtra.
Commissioner of Women and Child Welfare.
I once again welcome you all, and I now request for a floral welcome. May I request Shri Ravindra Khebudkar ji, OSD to Deputy Chairperson, to give a floral welcome to Honorable Advocate Rahul Narvekar ji, Speaker Maharashtra.
आधी पाहुण्यांचं करा. काय ताई तुम्ही किती घाबरले नार्वेकरांना, हा? तुम्हाला काय पाहुण्यांचा आधी करायचा ना, आपण आमचाच आधी कुठे करता?
Yeah.
Please, you have been facilitator of the process.
Honorable Majel Hind, Consul General of Australia. Honorable Achim Fabik, Consul General of Germany. Honorable Deirdre Kelly, Consul General of Canada. Dr. Yasakata Fukahori, Consul General of Japan.
Have you?
Honorable Jean-Marc Serre-Charlet, Consul General of France.
Have you?
Honorable Bartegi Young, Consul General of Netherlands.
Oh yeah, too many of them. Oh, thank you so much. Thank
May I now request Honorable Dr. Neelam Goreji, Deputy Chairperson, Maharashtra Legislative Council, to please address with her opening remarks.
Good afternoon, namaste. I would like to welcome first of all my colleague and Speaker of Maharashtra Assembly, Mr. Rahul Narvekar. I will like to welcome Honorable Consul General of Mexico, Mr. Adolfo Garcia Estrada, who has been, I would say, founder and a felicitator and a person who took initiative. And when he told me that he will be able to have all the consulates, 5 consulates together, I felt quite empowered. So I would like to mention his name first. Mr. Majel Hind, Consul General of Australia, Madam. Mr. Ashtim Phabik, Consul General of Germany. Mr. Daira Kelly, Consul General of Canada. Dr. Yasukata Pukori, Consul General of Japan, well-known person for all of us because we had been to Japan also. Honorable Jean-Marc Serre-Charlet, Consul General of France. We had been to, I remember on 27th March, we were in your consulate, and first time there was a discussion on feminist policy. So I think this is something which are doing follow-up. So it is not just one event for us, but it is also process of empowering women and the humanity at large. Jailam Doshi, Vivek Pansalkar, and all other dignitaries on the table. I would like to be very brief, but without any words or without explaining how we are connected with this issue of feminist foreign policy, I think this deliberation will not be complete. First of all, let me say that the word feminist itself is a very scary word for many people all over the world. So, however, irrespective of that, this has been a part and parcel, and I would say definitely a very historical role in the movement of the human rights of the people. And we as a NGO, I as a legislator, and all of us in legislature are connected to feminist foreign policy and also the issues of violence against women, whether it can be within family or it is at the public space, or even the issues related with anti-trafficking. So keeping this in mind, when I had a suggestion from Mr. Adolfo that let us have a more interactive discussion on this issue, so maybe other countries all over the world, including India, will be able to take this issue forward when it comes to practically making feminist foreign policy into action. So keeping this in mind, I think I look at this interaction as something like a brainstorming session. It is not a direction, I hope, for me or even from our speaker, because this is not a legislative house happening. So whatever we are suggesting, it is consultative process. We have been part of the CPA, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Along with that, whatever decisions are taken by Government of India in Parliament regarding changing of laws, those laws can be regarding women's issues, those laws can be regarding sustainable development goals, those laws can be regarding scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and the tribal community. So we are also directly connected with the decision-making process. Along with that, there are certain protocols and certain MOUs which are being done by Government of Maharashtra with various departments in various countries. And recently in G20, there was deliberation that there were 6 points which came up on which India will like to have better cooperation with every country, which includes trade, digital technology, also the issues related with security, education and SDGs. And along with that, the Asia Pacific Ocean, the issues related with security. So keeping all these issues in mind, one issue which always haunts me is related with human rights of women who migrate to different countries or because of marriage or sometimes for education when they go to various countries. Which laws are connected to them? One, definitely from whichever country she is coming, that law, she is expecting justice from that particular law. But when we were talking to Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy in London High Commissionerate, and he explained that there are many women every week, about 10 women approach High Commission for getting security and safety within family. So if the husband belongs to the Indian community, then we can try to support her. But suppose if he is from any other country, then the law of that particular country will be applicable to him. And also there is a possibility that he has migrated from that country and again he has gone somewhere else. So actually the laws, if you are all aware, if there are any SOPs which are able to have a common denominator when it comes to such cases, where those SOPs making them more transparent and more accountable and more pro people, it will be very useful for many people. That is number one. Number two, as we have been, as Sri Aadhar Kendra, we have been part of 6 or 7 national different processes. I will try to be very brief, but in 1988, the National Perspective Plan, the 1993 Panchayat Raj institutions, when 33% reservation was given to Indian women, and now we get 50%. We were the people who were on the roads for demanding that, and finally it came into existence. In 1995, in 4th World Women Conference, when 500 women from India went to Beijing and they participated into the Platform for Action document, which covers 12 areas of concern related with gender and empowerment of women. Also, the 4th process is outcome document by United Nations, which talks about Millennium Development Goals, and every country is supposed to have a national action plan regarding empowerment of the society. 5th is the biennial conferences which were taken by Government of India every 2 years in SAARC countries about what is the implementation of Platform for Action, and these 5 countries every 2 years there was a biennial conference which was headed by Sumitra Ji Mahajan every year, and as a member of the community and NGO there were 10 women in this process, so I am fortunate to be one of them. So I was able to travel to Maldives, to also other places like Bangladesh, Bhutan, also to Maldives and also to Pakistan, and to understand what's happening in those countries and how we can share that process. Last two, one is definitely CSW, Commission on Status of Women in UN, 98 to 2023. This year the theme was digitalization and the role of rural women in education and empowerment of women. So Sri Aadhar Kendra with Vaishali, Jhelam and all of us, we had virtual meetings on these issues, and now we are looking at changing the laws by CBOs and legislatures. So when it comes to feminist foreign policy, we felt that to demystify the policy is something very important, and that's why I'm very happy that Women and Child Secretary, Director, our counterparts always, I think, on every issue we expect police to work. So this workshop cannot be complete without law and enforcement machinery, delegates, and they are all committed, our very high level officers from our state. So what I will expect now, and I will request Minalji, that every country's feminist foreign policy, what are the, if we are done already, what are the highlights and how it is connected with the violence against women and what can be benefited for that. I know there are constraints of time, but however, if the policy is already on the website, you can just send us a copy and we'll try to make also version in local language, and we'll share with all NGOs and even the police officers. And I'm happy to share with you that Mr. Narnavre has told me, who is already Women and Child Department, is going to take initiative regarding this. So that is the first news I will like to share in the opening remarks itself. So thank you so much. And Mr. Narvekar is very keen when it comes to all the, he is looking after a lot of litigations in the assembly also, but along with that, I am happy that he is able to spare time with all of us, though we are not part of the litigation. So you are welcome
so
here. Yeah. Thank you. So I will stop here. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Gore. Dr. Neelam Gore has briefly explained the motive behind this symposium. May I now request Honorable Advocate Dr. Rahul Narvekar ji to share his views on this topic.
Good afternoon to all, and let me start with congratulating Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji on the very successful completion of the G20 Head of State Summit in New Delhi. And let me also congratulate counterparts from across the globe who participated in making this event a grand success. And I'm sure this will be conveyed back home as well. Having said that, in the same breath, let me welcome all of you all to the Maharashtra Vidhan Bhavan, which is the temple of democracy in this state. And it's indeed a pleasure to have all of you all here today. Honorable Deputy Chairman, Maharashtra Legislative Council, Mrs. Dr. Neelam Gore, has taken the initiative to organize today's interaction deliberation on a topic which is near and dear to every representative here, which is of prime importance for the holistic growth, holistic improvement and holistic progress of the globe at large. As we all know, India believes in the principle and the value of Vasundhaiva Kutumbakam, which means we treat the entire world to be our family. And therefore, when we look at a holistic approach for the entire world, it is necessary to take care of every stakeholder who is a part of our world. Needless to state that the women in this world occupy a very special position in every household, in every state, in every country. And therefore, interactions which strengthen the values, the protection, or perhaps the growth of every woman in this world is certainly a very, very important event. And I would like to thank Dr. Gore for taking the initiative in organizing this event, which I'm certain will be a brainstorming session where diverse views will be exchanged, ideas will be exchanged to meet a common end, being the welfare of women around the world. Having said that, the topic that we are going to discuss today is feminist policies, foreign policies around the world. And like Mrs. Gore has said, that this is perhaps a topic which makes your stand around the world. And be that as it may, I'm sure that interactions like this will further strengthen the process of transformation of imbalance of power, imbalance of social status in large parts of the world. I won't say in every portion of the world, but on large parts of the world where this exists. India, as we see today, embarks a journey of not just social upliftment, but of also marching towards becoming a global economy, perhaps to reckon with. And this cannot be achieved if we have a gender equilibrium in the country, which we are conscious about. And while we talk about a gender equilibrium in the country, we would be delighted to see a similar scenario around the world, and perhaps that's why Ms. Gore has initiated this forum for a very fruitful discussion. Like she pointed out, there are policies which have been undertaken by various nations around the world to ensure upliftment and equality for every gender within that country. And if we share these values, if we share these ideas, it's going to mutually benefit each one of us. So let me throw the discussion open while I eagerly wait to hear diverse views from around the world. Today we have amongst us presiding officers, we have amongst us dignitaries and diplomats from around the world, we have amongst us bureaucrats, law enforcing officers from the state of Maharashtra, and colleagues who are here to witness and participate in this debate. I would like to congratulate all of you all for being here today and taking part in this very useful deliberation. And so let me now, without taking too much of your time, throw the dais open for this deliberation. And like Ms. Gore has said, that in any event, I'm supposed to be busy resolving litigation at this point of time. So I couldn't be able to, though I would love to hang on for the entire session, but due to my pre-decided appointments, I would have to excuse myself in a while. Having said that, being the Speaker of the House, I'm anyways supposed to speak less and listen more. So let me now throw open the dais. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. As we all can see, there is a perfect balance in our both the houses of Maharashtra legislation. As Dr. Gore is a medical professional, was a medical professional. Advocate Narvekar is a advocate, but not because of this, but both are strong advocates of women causes, and they take initiatives for such causes. So now may I call Mr. Adolfo Garcia Estrada, Consul General of Mexico in Mumbai. He is in Consul General of Mexico in Mumbai since January 2023. He is having degree in international relations and has a master's degree in diplomatic studies as well as in international political economy. He has played an important role by serving as the political attaché in Finland in 2003 and as the Deputy Chief of Mission and Chief of Political Affairs in Ireland in 2006 and as Deputy Chief of Mission and Charge d'Affaires in Thailand in 2013. So, Mr. Adolfo Garcia Estrada.
Mike, it's better audibility.
Hello. Okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Your Excellency Neelam Gore and Your Excellency Rahul Narvekar. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. I am so excited to be in this forum that has such a practical objective. We are here not to share, to make speeches as diplomats usually do or often do, but to share experiences and share concerns. So I will speak very candidly, and I will share my concerns and the things that we are facing in this topic. Violence against women is one of the main problems that we are facing in diplomacy, and certainly for the Mexican Foreign Service. It's the #1 source of Vienna Convention notifications, meaning that Mexican nationals that are detained, they are detained because of problems related to domestic violence. And mostly 90% of those victims are women. So this tells you the story, this terrible story that we are facing. It affects all of us, so it affects the whole community, it affects our country. And you mentioned the migration, and of course India, and of course Mexico, as you may know, is a country of migrants, and migrants are especially vulnerable, both for violence against women and human trafficking, and especially human trafficking. Women, and the most vulnerable sectors of the population are the most affected in this regard. So, what are our concerns? What do we do? Besides all the great things that our country is doing, and the path towards equality, our missions have very specific objectives regarding these topics. The first concern that we have, the first issue, is to identify the victims. This is very important. So we face, this issue in all our embassies, in all our consulates. It may seem an obvious thing, but it is not. And I will ask my colleagues, please, to show. We have a banner in all our consulates and missions. We call it the violentometer. It says it's violent meter. Because we have seen that victims, may not recognize themselves as victims. So it is a challenge. We face, people, women, in our consulates, that they have problems. domestic violence problems, but they say no, but my husband doesn't hit me. He loves me and he has never touched me. But then we say, no, look, there's different levels of violence. So I'm sorry, this is in Spanish, but basically the idea is that you have in the levels like hurtful jokes, jealousy, humiliation, and the violence meter keeps going up until at the top, of course, the most extreme form of violence, so murder, assassination, mutilation, rape, etc. What we're trying to say here, to put all our Mexican nationals actually in their face is, look, you may not be facing physical violence yet, but if you are if you have a jealous husband, if you are being humiliated in public, if he controls your finances, if he's making sextortion against you, those are red flags, and we need to take care of that. So we are very didactic in our approach, and that is the first thing. The second thing is, and this is very important for us, to have local partners and to have allies with NGOs, with government, and of course, above all, law enforcement, the police, so that we can help these victims. Okay? We have a protocol to assist the victims. We have a toolkit to assist them, but inevitably we need local partners. Okay, so because what happens is that we identify the victim, or the victim comes to us and they say, okay, we are in this foreign country, in India, in the US, and we need help. So of course we can provide information, we can give all kinds of orientation, your rights are this and that, but inevitably we need to reach out to local partners, and we are talking about shelters for women. We're talking about law enforcement. We're talking about organizations that can provide psychological help. So it is extremely complex, and we cannot do it on our own. So I think this is a great occasion for us to do that networking and to have all these connections in place, so that if we have, and actually, I have been in 6 months here in India, and we already have, consular assistance cases related to domestic violence. So it is incredible. Briefly, talking just a few minutes about trafficking, about human trafficking. Well, again, there's the problem with identification of cases, and what we do. Sometimes the victim comes to the office, and it may not be so obvious that she or he, usually she, is a victim. So we have to educate and to train our personnel. So if somebody comes, if a woman comes and doesn't speak, or is or comes with a friend or an uncle, or a male person that speaks for her, so that is a red light, and we have to identify those cases, because that person can be human trafficking victim. And also, and finally, just to finish, recognize that these are hugely complex cases in a psychological way. So usually victims feel a lot of shame, guilt, they are isolated, and again, we need always the help of local partners to deal with these cases. So thank you very much, and well, I pass the microphone to my colleague, Consul General of Germany.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adolfo.
Honorable Dr. Neelam Gorje, Honorable Advocate Rahul Navakar, thank you so much for having us here. Thank you so much for having us invited to this very, very important meeting and symposium to talk a little bit about feminist foreign policy, bring some of the players together, some of the interested parties together, and to exchange a little bit on where we stand and what ideas we can bring to the table. I would like to start off with a few observations on feminist foreign policy in the German context. While the ideas, the underlying ideas to feminist foreign policies are actually going back for quite some time, the formulation of these ideas as feminist foreign policy is a relatively young experience for us. We had put together guidelines in a document only in February of this year. And of course, we're very much guided by the fact that we have a female foreign minister who is looking very much in promoting and driving these ideas forward. The idea of feminist foreign policy from a German point of view, and I think it's exactly the same with my colleagues, therefore, is to ensure gender equality worldwide and not creating a foreign policy for women in that aspect, but creating a foreign policy that is benefiting all of society. And what we're really trying to do is cultivating a feminist reflex of, in whatever we do, thinking the female, the feminist, the woman, the children, and the gender equality into our policies, into the work that we do. And we have three areas, three goals that we're looking at. These are rights. This is to advocate for rights of women and children. These are representation. This is to ensure equitable participation and representation of women in society. And this is looking at resources, making available and campaign for access to resources in that context. And therefore what we are looking to do is very much what you have pointed out as well. We're trying to integrate various perspectives into policies that are being formulated, trying to look especially into the fields of humanitarian assistance and crisis-related areas. How do we take into account the perspective of vulnerable women and children in that context? We're looking at the representation, for instance, of marginalized women in society, how we can network with women and their role in an economic context. And I'll say from my experience here in Maharashtra, very often when I'm invited to a gathering of businessmen and economists, it's very, very difficult to find a woman on the panel, and it's equally difficult almost to find a woman in the audience. So this is really an area, I think, where for us it's a good situation to make the point and say that while we are coming here together, surely a lot of expertise, we are not coming together in an inclusive and in an equitable manner. Therefore, there are areas where we try to make that point, where we try to address these issues and press for that. But how does it all spell out for what the consulate is actually doing here in Mumbai? And what we are trying to do is yet again picking up on the points that you made. We're looking at the legal issues. There is a lot of legislation available. There are a lot of laws governing the issue. But very often we feel that access to these laws or the ideas of understanding these laws even may be a bit of a problem. So what we have done is we have put onto the work that we're doing the idea that we want to fund NGOs, we want to fund players in the field of domestic violence, and we had been asking NGOs and stakeholders to come forward and suggest some of the ideas, what is it that could be done in that field. And one of the projects that we liked is indeed a small NGO who is saying that we put together a reader with the relevant legislations in the context of domestic violence, and we'll try to start with one language and then translate it into other vernacular languages. And I understand this is possible only to a certain extent, as there are languages that you will not have in writing, but nevertheless you'll find a lot of people speaking it. But we think that it's very important to provide and make accessible an understanding of the laws governing this area, what can be done, what can you do, and make it available in a number of languages. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, when you in Germany look at domestic violence, the issues of domestic violence, you will see that 1 in 4 German women over the age of 18 have been subjected to either domestic violence or intimate partner violence, which I think is roughly about the same number as in Maharashtra. So, as Honorable Speaker Advocate Rahul Navakar is saying, these are exactly the same problems we have here, we have there, we have in Germany, we have all over the world. And having the opportunity to speak in front of this audience today and having a number of NGOs and stakeholders on board, we'd like to share an idea that we would like to look into further as a consulate, but of course we would like to see if there's stakeholders on board here today that we could possibly get in touch. If you put in the word domestic violence in German into Google or any other of the search machines, you come up with one homepage that has one telephone number, 116016. There's an emergency button for acute cases. It has a helpline. It has a chat facility. But it's really putting together all the players that are involved in the field of domestic violence into one sort of go-to place. As I said, there's one phone number that in all of Germany you can dial and you get there, as if you're calling the fire brigade, as if you're calling the police. I was trying to have a look at what's the setup in the internet when you look at Maharashtra, and you come up with a whole lot of organizations, NGOs, projects and facilities, institutions, entities, and they are very, very much localized. You can go to Car West or Car East to Dadar or any other place, and you will find people to talk to, people to address to. But I think it'd be one of the ideas that we would love to look at a little bit more is how can you unify that into one approach, so that equally in Maharashtra there'll be an opportunity to just look at one phone number, not having to go through what would be the next best place, but really having to go to only one website or one phone number and try to centralize the idea. And of course, this would be something that we would love to do with the authorities or any NGO or any player in that field. And I'll leave it at that for today. Thank you so much yet again for this opportunity. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to come together and exchange in this field. Thank you.
Just one small query before we go ahead. Whether this is happening back home or this is happening through the consulate here also, if somebody approaches from your country here, like domestic violence or the trafficking issue. In Germany or even in Mexico. Yeah, okay.
He is more often speaking on the third behalf. That is a red flag.
Right. Yeah, you can add.
Yeah, I can add to that only that we do not have any issues in the German consulate here. We are very fortunate not having to deal with it. But of course, in the case that this were to arise, we need to be aware of the mechanisms available and the possibilities to deal with such a situation. And I did have opportunities in that sense where we were dealing with these issues in other places, in other countries. So it is a very common topic. And yes, as Adolfo was saying, that it does not work without local players, local parties that you can connect to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker Naveka and Deputy Chairperson of the Legislative Council, my friend Neelam Gore. This is an important topic and a wonderful initiative, and I thank you very much for including the Australian Consulate General in this. Australia is committed to advancing gender equality and the rights of women and girls at home, in our region, and through broader international engagement. Gender equality is about equal opportunities, rights and responsibilities for women and men, girls and boys. It does not mean that women and men are the same. Gender inequality is a result of unequal power distribution between men and women, exacerbated by ongoing discrimination, weaknesses in laws, policies and institutions, and social relations that normalise inequality. Australia's focus on gender equality aims to address unequal gender norms that constrain women and men. It is a global issue relevant to Australia and the economic, social, welfare and foreign policies of all countries, which includes states like Maharashtra. Experience over decades demonstrates that gender equality, economic growth and development are mutually reinforcing and significantly correlated. Gender equality and women's participation drives development and economic growth. At present, three main pillars support Australia's international efforts. These are Australia's gender equality and women's empowerment strategy, which underpins and informs our foreign policy decisions and provides a cross-cutting framework for our efforts. A gender equality fund to drive innovative gender equality initiatives and engaging on gender equality issues in multilateral fora, principally through the Commission on the Status of Women and a range of regional and specialist technical groupings. To support and promote this work, in 2011 the first Ambassador for Women and Girls was established in Australia. Since then, this ambassador, retitled the Ambassador for Gender Equality, has been a high-profile and lead advocate for Australia's work on gender equality and the human rights of women and girls. She even had a successful visit to Mumbai earlier this year. Here in Maharashtra, women's empowerment forms a key part of the work of the consulate. It is a lens that we cast over all our work, from ensuring panels have gender balance when we recruit staff to the Consulate General, to specific training for our own staff to work with the community. One of our flagship programs last year empowered 1,200 underprivileged women across the state to become first responders to cases of domestic violence in their communities. In collaboration with the local NGO Red Dot Foundation, we focused on equipping these women with vital skills and knowledge to identify, prevent and respond to instances of gender-based violence. This not only shaped change makers, but also created safe spaces for women within these communities. As many of you are aware, mid-career women across the globe are most likely to lose out on growth opportunities due to household or career responsibilities. Championing women in leadership, we worked with one of Australia's leading institutions, Monash University, to deliver a professional development training and mentorship for 30 mid-career women based in Mumbai to enable them to progress in their careers and break that glass ceiling. We are committed to continue our efforts and welcome the opportunity to work with the Maharashtra government and other missions here in advancing gender inclusion, equality and empowerment. Thank you.
Before we go ahead, he wants to leave, so we'll excuse him. The bouquet then we'll
So I will request myself to be excused.
This is not for being excused, but this is for coming.
Thank you, sir, for joining this inaugural session.
Thank you. See you.
So, we start from you. Sure.
Good afternoon. And I'll just start by saying that I'm delighted to be here in the Vidhav Bhavan on Democracy Day today, and in the presence of all our esteemed guests and hosts, especially the Honourable Rahul Navarkar, just there, the Honourable Ms. Jilam Joshi, the Commissioner of Police, Consuls General, and especially to Dr. Neelam Gauri and her team who've made this possible. So sex and gender-based violence happen disproportionately to women and girls. This is true in every country and every society. It happens at home, in schools, on the streets, at work, and on the internet. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 3 women and girls experience violence in their lifetime. So we have real work to do, but we also have a strong foundation to start from. As evidenced here today, we have the political will, and we have the leadership and track record of women's rights organizations to build the kind of partnerships and programs that are needed to accelerate action towards achieving Sustainable Development Goal 5.2, which is eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls by 2030. So to complement our other speakers, I'll share a few examples of how Canada is contributing to this goal. And I'll start by noting that violence against women and girls is not just a developing country problem. The SDGs are universal, and Canada is committed to domestically to gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. So our efforts to combat violence against women have a long history, but in the last few years, when our first federal strategy was launched in 2017, efforts have been redoubled with an increased focus on those most at risk, particularly our Aboriginal women and girls. So in 2019, our Prime Minister welcomed the release of the final report on the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. In response to this national inquiry, the Government of Canada developed an action plan to end violence towards Indigenous women and girls. And building on these efforts, in 2022, the federal, provincial, and territorial governments across Canada together developed a national action plan to end gender-based violence. And it was based on 5 pillars: support for victims, survivors, and their families; prevention; responsive justice systems; implementing Indigenous-led approaches; and social infrastructure and enabling environment. And on the global stage, Canada has been at the forefront of advocating for the elimination of violence against women for over 20 years, because we know that it's the best way to build a more peaceful, inclusive, and prosperous world. Currently, 99% of Canada's bilateral international development assistance initiatives either target or integrate gender equality and women's empowerment. However, instead of talking about the details of our feminist international assistance and feminist foreign policies, I'd like to focus on a related issue that I've been hearing a lot about from women and girls, both in Canada and here in India, and it's one I think that you raised in your introduction, Dr. Gorhe. And it's gender-based violence in online space, which starts from the idea that women and girls have the right to access digital technology without being targeted by online violence and abuse. Human Rights Council Resolution 3213 affirms that the same rights that people have offline must also be protected online. This resolution is significant because it extends consideration of all human rights to online spaces and makes older instruments relevant in the digital age, such as the 1979 UN General Assembly Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So digital technologies have the potential to play an important role in advancing gender equality and empowering women and girls. However, the benefits of these technologies are being undermined by online violence directed disproportionately against women and girls, as well as other targeted and minority or marginalized groups, such as LGBTQI+ individuals. Women in positions of power and human rights defenders are targeted even more. This violence has serious but often underestimated impacts on women and girls around the world, including on their well-being and political, social, and cultural participation. So Canada considers gender-based violence in digital contexts as a pressing human rights issue. And we're at the forefront of global efforts to address these issues, with achievements at the 2018 G7 Charlevoix Summit and the Human Rights Council, where Canada led on a resolution with a title too unwieldy for me to say here. But we've also produced a playbook for gender equality in the digital age, which sets out best practices to support gender equality in digital contexts. And I'd be happy to send this link to anybody who is interested to know more about this issue and how Canada seeks to address it. And in India, we've also supported efforts with our team in Delhi in 2022, working with an organization called Social Media Matters, to bring together experts to explain how safety by design can be incorporated online and to raise awareness about the importance of safe spaces online. So, as the Feminist Foreign Policy Group has done in Mumbai for over a year now, I hope we all remain inspired to continue our joint efforts to eliminate all forms of gender-based violence and discrimination, whether we do this in coordination with government and political levels, as today, or with grassroots organizations. So today I just encourage everyone to meet up with old allies and discover new ones, to learn about the innovative approaches, including some that I've definitely heard and were new to me, so thank you for that. So because together we must seize every opportunity to turn our attention to what we still need to do to make the world a safer, more equal place for women, girls, and people of all gender identities.
Thank you. I'm Consul General of Japan, Fukahori. Yes, in my country, Japan, we have many female gender programs, and there are many unfair and discriminatory practices left for women. We have to work very hard to address all those issues. But since I'm seems to be only Asian diplomat here in this room, I need to talk a little bit different from angle from other the speakers. And this issue is, of course, social issues. It's very important. But this is also as a cultural issue as well. Because I noted when I read Christian Bible, Bible says that women are made out of men. And also Quran says same thing, that women are made out of men. That is kind of religious background in all those monotheistic countries. But in India and also in Japan, we don't have such idea, religious background of the origins of women and men. In Japan, Izanagi, Izanami are the original male god and female god. They are created by at the same time. So there's no distinction between men and women, which is first and which is second. I noted in monotheistic countries, Judaism countries and Christian countries and Islamic countries, the idea that women are made out of men seems to be prevailing, and then it may have generated some discrimination against women. From the point of view of non-monotheistic country, that is one point. And so it's in a way cultural issues. Also, I would like to mention that the scientific aspect is very important for this issue. Scientific means a biological aspect of these gender issues. And as you know, I hold a PhD in economics, but while I studied, before I took my PhD in environmental economics, I substantially studied about biology as well, because at half of my secondary degree, environmental science is actually biology. And biologically speaking, being a man is being half a woman. So that biologically speaking, it is clear that women is the default human being. Men are actually created from women. So that it's completely different from those religious interpretation. So we have to have those scientific factors as well. And then as a scientific factor which is important for biology is that there's a difference between, biologically speaking, the big difference between men and women is at the physical size. Women are physically smaller than men. That's the only scientific difference between men and women. The brain quality, mental quality, spiritual quality, all those things are completely equal between men and women, scientifically speaking. So we have to have a proper understanding. There's no difference. But however, we have to focus on the physical aspect. Women are smaller and then physically weaker. That created the discrimination in the history of a human being for many centuries, discrimination against women. We are now in the modern society. We need to address all the issues to properly provide social justice for women. That's what the Japanese government is trying to do. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all, and Dr. Gore, thank you so much for this initiative on this very important topic. In the Netherlands, like in Germany, we have basically gender equality as a heart of our foreign policy for years and years. But only recently we formulated that into a document, a foreign feminist policy. And that has been adopted in Parliament just a few months ago. And that basic purview of that is that we're going to mainstream gender equality and women's rights in all our foreign policy actions. I'll focus on two things. First, what we do on the international level, and that what we do specifically bilaterally, specifically in India also. On the international level, actually we were organizing the International Conference on Feminist Foreign Policy 1st and 2nd of November this year. And that prior just to that is the UN General Assembly, where we will also be co-organizing a ministerial event on feminist foreign policy. And that is actually next week already, I think. Now, the main aim of the conference in the Netherlands is that we want to shape foreign policy, foreign feminist policy, and also to expand the network of countries that is participating in that. And here again, that will focus on the rights of women, on the representation of women, notably in political decision making and conflict solving, because it's proven that if women are involved in conflict solving, that the solutions found are usually more long-lasting. We focus on resources. You need to have resources as a country to be able to implement the foreign feminist policy. And then there's also a reality check in the sense that we might have solutions or we might have initiatives, but the reality check that you should have is whether these solutions would also work in other countries. One of the aims of the conference is also to share best practices between countries. Specifically on the prevention and combating of violence against women and domestic violence. We have ratified already in 2015 the Istanbul Convention, and that is a convention that sort of commits countries to ensure protection for victims and to bring perpetrators to justice. It's been adopted within the Council of Europe, but it's open to countries from all over the world to ratify it as well, to sign and ratify it. Then in our national policy, we support women's rights and gender equality through programming for the SDG 5 fund. And we have reserved, as a country, we have reserved 500 million euros for that. Another initiative that we yearly take part in is Orange the World campaign, which is about to start again on the 25th of November to the 10th of December. And that is basically a campaign for raising awareness of this topic. And then what we also do, together with a number of countries around this table, is we are supporter or maybe even actively initiating the biannual UN resolution on violence against women. Specifically in India, when it comes to combating violence against women, we think economic empowerment is crucial. It will help if women are independent. It will help them to become self-sustaining and also escape violent situations. Reducing gender-related violence will enable women to safely and effectively participate in economic activities. We have a project in Rajasthan where we try to develop skills. We try to build confidence and also leadership abilities. And part of that project is also to engage women in sports. Actually, we have the Netherlands, Royal Netherlands Football Association. They have various projects, also in Maharashtra, where they train trainers and we specifically aim women trainers. And we think that indeed training women in sports gives them confidence and makes them stronger, not only physically. And in Mumbai, we support, not financially, but we do that through other promotion actions. We support a social enterprise called Tiny Miracles. It's a very interesting initiative in the sense that the lady that took the initiative had a target group, marginalized women in RA colony. And they are producing very simple skills, just some sewing. They are producing bags by 1 million and vases for well-known Dutch brands. What we did there is, what they did there, I should say, is give these women a means of existence and also self-confidence there. And at the moment, this initiative, started by one woman only, is providing employment to 3,000 women in RA colony in the environment. So these kinds of initiatives basically aimed at economic empowerment. That is sort of initiatives that we really support. Specifically on supporting anti-domestic violence situations, we have also initiatives. We think what's crucial over here is capacity building. capacity building, for instance, with police stations or one-stop shop centers to better handle cases of domestic violence. It was addressed already, I think, by you, Alfonso, that identifying victims, but also giving them, let's say, an easy entrance to filing a complaint or FIR. That would help. But then you need to indeed make sure that the receiving institutions are trained to that, willing to accept cases also. And then what we also do through our local partner organizations is policy advocacy and a dialogue with local Indian authorities, but also with NGOs, to basically make them aware of the sort of initiatives that you can take, and these are the initiatives that I just mentioned. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Jean-Marc Serret-Charlet, I'm the French Consul General in Mumbai. Honorable Dr. Neelam Gore, dear colleagues, dear friends. I will try to be short and crispy, but it's a very vast subject and topic difficult to tackle in 5 minutes. According to the UN, an estimated 736 million women across the globe have been subjected to intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or both at least once in their life. Women and girls in all their diversity experience multiple and intersecting forms of gender-based violence in their lifetime. And despite this severe statistic, violence experienced by women and girls is significantly underreported. Only 40% of women who experience violence seek help of any sort, and many do not report their experiences to formal mechanisms. Women and girls are suffering many forms of violences, and there are many issues to tackle. Domestic violence, trafficking, sexual violences, online violence, as we mentioned. And France is determined to fight all these issues. We've developed diverse sort of action plan at different levels. I won't dwell on that. I would like to concentrate on two main topics, just to give a more explained experience, one on the internal level and one on the international level. As far as I decided to take the trafficking issue in France and prostitution, which is a key issue in women violence against women, because it's a accumulation of two violences against women and girls. In France, 90% of the women prostitutes on the streets are foreigners, and 80% of them are victims of international mafia networks. So it really makes that prostitution and trafficking are the two faces of the same problem. Future prostitutes must pay what they call a passage debt up to 50,000 euros. Some of them are minors, and when they arrived in France, a prostitute is subjected to what they call training, gang rapes, deprivation of food, confinement, and physical violence, blackmail, threat on the family, racketeering. It is really trafficking. And French government has recently ordered the task force to make a report on prostitution in France in order to be able to make better policies for rights of women and children. And the conclusion of the report on the part concerning the networks of Eastern Europe countries was that the debt is not meant to be repaid, but to keep prostitutes in the prostitution system as long as possible. So France has tried to tackle the problem. Of course, we signed the 1960 convention, International Convention for the suppression of the traffic in persons and of the exploitation of prostitution. France is an abolitionist country, which means that we consider prostitutes as victims of trafficking and penalize prostitution and clients, but not prostitutes themselves. They are victims. And we oppose a distinction between free and forced prostitution that some countries try to promote in international discussions. We have a new law, 2016 law, which is making buying of sexual acts illegal, of course, and punishable with a fine of 4,000 euros if the prostitute is an adult. And if it's a prostitute is under 18, it's up to 3 years of jail and 45,000 euros. The challenges we face are, of course, the identification of victims, which is very difficult because they do not assert their rights. Unfortunately, the fight against trafficking is very unevenly organized. Few prosecutions are initiated on the basis of the offense of trafficking in human beings. And, of course, they are insufficiently protected or represented despite best intentions and framework. So we have three priorities. First, identify and support the victims of trafficking. Second, pursue and dismantle trafficking networks. And three, make the fight against trafficking a public policy. And we have a specific chapter for fighting against prostitution of minors. And we have an action plan on that. And we spent last year more than 20 million euros to better fight against the prostitution of minors. And also a new law some years ago empowered the recovery department to seize the proceeds from the sale and confiscation of assets from pimping networks and add it to the government coffers, which allow us to have a more generous and active policy. That's an example of what we do at national level. Now at the international level, which is very important as we are an active member of the international community, and very often problems are at global problems, not only national problems. Sexual violence is a weapon of war. Women and girls are the first to be affected by poverty, conflict and climate change, but conflict. Their place in society means they face difficulties and discrimination everywhere and in all fields. Peace and stability are not the norm around the world, and many war zones remain. In certain countries, sexual violences may be used as a weapon of war with the aim of terrorizing population. It can take many forms, but trafficking and profiting from it remains a significant part of this gender violence. I'm very happy that my Russian colleague is here, because it's very important for Russia. I don't know if Russia listens, but it's very important for Russia. No, maybe it's not interesting what we do.
I think he wants you to hear him.
I just wanted to say that it's very important for Russia, for Russian diplomats, to hear again that women and girls are the main victims of war. We have reports, terrible reports, of violences exerted by the Russian army in Ukraine. And the fact that, for instance, trafficking and taking out children and girls from their family is the negation, the basic negation of basic rights for women and children. And war is the worst thing which can happen for women because they are, again, the main victims of wars. France is taking action on the ground directly and through the Global Fund for Survivors of Conflict-Related Sexual Violence. It's not a very well-known fund. However, it's a very effective one. It was created by Nobel Prize, two Nobel Prizes, Mrs. Nadia Murad and Dr. Denis Mukwege. And their aim is to provide survivors of conflict-related sexual violence with compensation and reparations and help them to reintegrate into society. And France contributes annually more than 6 million euros to this fund. To come back to the broad policy against gender violence, we are part of many coalition actions for international policy against gender violence, and it's part of our feminist foreign policy. We are also very active as a permanent member of the Security Council and strong supporters of the resolution of the Security Council of the United Nations 1325, which is well known as Women, Peace and Security. It's a set of 6 resolutions. The first one was adopted unanimously, I mean, even by the 5 permanent members, such as Russia. Violences against women, and among other topics, we recognize in this resolution that special measures has to be taken to protect women and girls from gender-based violence, particularly rape and other sexual abuses in situations of armed conflicts. I won't be long because we spent a lot of time, a lot of our energy trying to promote these issues at the New York level, of course, but also on other level, but it's absolutely to understand that conflicts are one of the main source of violence against women. To conclude, France, I would like to say that France places gender equality at the heart of its international agenda. We did so during our G7 presidency in 2019. In Paris in 2021, we hosted the Generation Equality Forum, which we co-chaired with Mexico and UN Women, and which led to practical commitments by the states and the organizations taking part. I personally was part of the organization, so I can tell you it was a large offensive thanks to our UN colleague and Mexican colleague, and we managed to do so despite the COVID crisis. France actively promotes the universal adoption of the Istanbul Convention, like other EU members and Council of Europe members, an effort that contributed to the recent ratification of the convention by 3 more states and the European Union as such. And last, we have also been at the vanguard of international efforts to defend women's rights wherever they are challenged, particularly in Iran and in Afghanistan. I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I thank all the Council Generals for sharing their views, expressing concerns, and throwing light on some important aspects of this issue. I now request Jhelam Joshi ji, founder member, Sri Aadhar Kendra, to show her presentation and express her views.
Thank you. I will give, next slide please. I will give a brief introduction of Sri Aadhar Kendra. We started on 3rd January 1984, and the main founder chairman was definitely Dr. Neelam Gore. I happen to be her sister also, and I was one of the founder member since that time. And that time our logo says continuous action for equality. And this is what the concept we inculcated into our work since 1984. I will give you a brief kind of work that what we are doing. We support women in the natural, for continuous equality between men and women. We women support them in all the disasters. We had worked during Latur disaster, where there was an earthquake in Latur. Also take action in various incidents of violence against women of any time. There are sometimes physical violences, or even emotional violences. So we do give support to women in that. Survivor of rapes and other type of violences. We support girls, women, and sometimes even the children in order to make them included into the society once again, because a number of times they get totally devastated mentally. So we do support them. And sensitization of, there are lots of police officers, very senior ones. We had taken, along with the cooperation of them, a number of sessions on gender sensitization of the police force previously. And we firmly believe that meeting the goals of sustainable development goals and women empowerment, both these things are highly interconnected, and by achieving one, we will be in a position to achieve the next. Next slide, please. I will give you a short, because since 84 there was a huge activity, but I will give in a very short what kind of work we had undertaken. We had run a project we called it Tvarita, which means in Sanskrit, the one who responds quickly. And we had run around Pune anti-trafficking squads, where women used to go to the various bus stations or railway station and identify a single woman or a scared woman, and they would just chat very casually without showing that they are from an organization, and whenever they had identified, then we would take them to police or identify. Nirbhaya project was giving mental support and affection to children who are lost, and then they are lost on the train stations or bus stations, and we would go and meet them and give them mental support. We did poster publications, first time in 84, 87, and then every year during the 25th November to 10th of Jan, where there is an international 15 days of violence against women, we do the poster publication and public display of the posters in various areas around Pune, around Mumbai, of those posters. We also ran a project called Sangati, where Sangati means the one who is with the victim all the time. And under this project we had done capacity building of local NGOs around Pune, so that because just Sri Aadhar Kendra alone is not in a position to reach to everyone, so we thought that if we empower different local NGOs, then that might be helpful. Also in India of late there have been please connect to the power board. The rape, small girls, school-going girls, or even sometimes much smaller ones also are affected by violence, and just to bring them back their childhood to them. We try to give them toys and some books, and the eyes that change, that gives a tremendous satisfaction of what if we are in a position to change something into their such a terrible things which they have experienced at such a young age. Also, we had done a research on the medical protocol, because there are certain medical protocols on the rape victims, what needs to be done, how they need to be, how the investigation needs to be done, and in order to maintain and improve the SOPs, we had done a research on the medical protocol, how it is implemented across various rural and urban hospitals of Maharashtra, and we submitted a report so that it can be taken further and improved the SOPs. Then more recently we had done various programs for COVID during COVID time, where COVID yesterday, today and in future, where we made people share their experiences during COVID and tried to give mental support. We also supported single women, because number of times there were aids given by government, but the woman, if she had lost the husband, then the aid which was due to her may or may not reach her. It might be taken away by the family members. So that time we needed our intervention so that she gets the aid. And also we tried to bring them into the mainstream, because single women culturally as esteemed, there are certain stigmas. The moment a husband dies, there is a stigma, and then it is very difficult for them even internally to come into the mainstream. So we needed to work socially and culturally on that issue. On every month on around 25th, we take a campaign of Make the World Orange, where we come together and have a discussion on violence against any kind of violence against women and the discrimination that happens in women. So we have a awareness program with the community every month. And during now Ganpati season is coming, Ganpati and Navratri, many times it happens that small children or single women, they are the target for the trafficking people. So we give training so that the women are in a position to help and work in tandem with the police force, and if they identify such a lost woman or a lost child, they bring it to the local police station or the police beat, and then they are either, sometimes they are actually lost in the large number of people, or sometimes it is by intentional somebody is trying to do trafficking. So that is our ongoing work. Now, way forward, because in my next slide I am going to do some requests or demands to the various general consulates. So prior to that, let me see what we are ready to do as a homework. One, we are aware that India is not established feminist foreign policy yet. So we will definitely, with the help of this office and other NGOs, we will try to do a follow-up for establishing feminist foreign policy with Government of India. That's one big agenda on us. Another thing which I was glad to hear that some of us are also thinking on the same line, working in cooperation with various consulate, and so that we can help out women who are in distress in India, which are from other countries, as well as women who are in distress across in various countries. So maybe it needs to be worked on, but something like that might be useful. Now, number of Indian women do come to foreign country as with their husbands on dependent visas, and sometimes when they face the domestic violence, first thing that they lose is their passports, and they many times they are not in a position to talk the local language. So they are not able to communicate in the local language, and when they face domestic violence, they need local support from the local NGOs and local communities. So what might be helpful, if there are SOPs can get developed with different council and Indian High Commission or Indian Consulate, then on what help can, because the issue is quite complex. There are issues of privacy, there are issues of which nationality the husband belongs to and where the marriage has happened. So from taking all these aspects, if we can have certain standard operating procedures which can be guideline and which are helpful, that will be great. And support in terms of support in terms of opportunity for the affected woman, in case if she wants to go back to her family because she is all alone and vulnerable, or if she wants to, she is courageous enough and she would like to establish herself in that country, then support to her to be able to give a opportunity to work for as per her skill levels, her education level. That these two things, if there is a cooperation, that would be great. Of course, during war and natural disasters, women and children are the most affected and most vulnerable, and the possibility of people taking undue advantage of their vulnerability is very high. So if there is any forum which can help in identify such vulnerable women, that will be of great help. Coordinate with local women organization in various countries. That is one of the way it can help. And possibility of making available local legal help. That will also help considerably. Coordination with the local women organization and maintaining the particularly the mental strength of affected woman, because she is alone, vulnerable, may not be fluent with the language around her. So some self-help groups are useful. And of course, the role of like-minded men in this whole endeavor is extremely important, and we do look forward for that. This is last slide, and it is incomplete because this is what a few things which would help. That's what I think. But this is an extremely august gathering, and suggestions which can help to things that will help women in distress, we can include in this and work towards that. A few things which I have thought of is various schemes of governments that can support to women, that can be made available and visible. Because if the visual information, if it is available in public places or at chemist place, grocery places, even on the social media, because many women, even if they might be using social media in their own language, but the way on the social media, the moment you open, some ads keep on coming. That type of ads which can give support to women in distress, which is a very visual, that can be really helpful without this. Of course, these are difficult asks that I understand, but we are NGOs, so we keep on asking. Sometime or the other, we are successful. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, JLMG, for taking us through this brief presentation and sharing your roadmap. Stree Aadhar Kendra has truly proven to be the support to thousands of women in distress and their families too. Now we have come to the last and equally important speech of this opening and session. That is of Mr. Vivek Phansarkar, Commissioner of Police, Mumbai, and he will be throwing light on law and order aspect of this topic.
A small, I think, change. And he is the last speaker, but not the last of the session, because then we are opening forum, and which includes Dr. Elena Remedova, Dr. Prashant Narnavre, and Mr. Sanjay Saxena, and then it will finish. So
yes. For this opening session, he is the last and important speaker.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction. Honorable Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Council of Maharashtra, Dr. Neelam Gore. The Consul Generals of Canada, Japan, Netherlands, France, Mexico, Australia, Vice Consul of Russia, esteemed colleagues from the police and the government. The foreign aspect of the policy is going to dictate implement and the approach that it has or should have towards women. For long we have been talking about women upliftment, and I think now with the world order changing towards a more inclusive order, we need to focus as a department also, as a government also, on aspects of foreign policy, feminist foreign policy, like gender mainstreaming, women's rights and improvement. More importantly, which is very relevant to us, is the gender-based violence prevention and conflict resolution and peacekeeping. Not to deny that humanitarian aid, economic development, education and healthcare also are extremely important and contributory factors to changing attitudes towards girl children and women, and also thereby reducing the violence or the improvement of mindsets. I think the Consul General of Japan in his brief speech mentioned about the cultural aspect of this issue and this problem. And I think, ma'am, it is extremely relevant because the culture dictates the attitudes of individuals, households and societies towards men as well as women. And we need to do a lot on this aspect. We've been India, Maharashtra, Mumbai, everywhere we have been facing problems of female feticide, female infanticide. So even before the girl child is taking birth, she is under attack. And that is also very visible from the sex ratio. If we see the sex ratio of certain states, it is even lesser than the national average. It is even lesser than 900,000 to 900. So it speaks a lot about the mindset of the society and the men in particular, the patriarchal aspect of our society. Why this is relevant is because we are expecting to solve this problem by enforcement of law, which is a misplaced expectation. A large number of female feticides and infanticides are happening inside four walls, and it comes to the knowledge of the law enforcement agency only when some fetus is thrown in garbage or outside, disposed surreptitiously or secretly. As a country, we have made a lot of progress. We had the law banning sati in 1829, thanks to William Bentinck. Then we had the law which allowed widow remarriage. That came in 1856. And slowly and surely we started progressing, but these were the issues which were haunting the society, and from there we have come a very big way, I will say. Global connection, integration, meeting various nationalities, various cultures and interactions have helped a lot in this improvement. But I think we have miles to go really before we achieve something to be even very close to what we can. The Japanese Consul General also spoke about some issues which are cultural, and the change in the cultural aspects will spur the betterment and the equality and the space that women are striving today to have in the society much easier. And someone spoke of economic independence. I know women who have good positions in the economic order or the government departments as well, but I have seen cases where they have not been able to take their own financial decisions, and God forbid if there is some issue between the husband and the wife, and the wife wants to approach the police, she has to fall back on some family member from her maternal side, be it her brother or be it her father or be it somebody, a man who she relies upon. So I think it is going to be a huge struggle in the society before we really give women their due place, as a matter of an attempt to empower police women in the Mumbai police force itself. I found that the police women that are recruited, they don't consider themselves as police persons, and they continue to have the burden of being a woman in a household or in a society, and therefore the enforcement aspect that should have inclusion in the personality of a police person is missing. So we, ma'am, started a program for women. We've trained close to 1,000 women police in the last 6 months. We call it Project Asmita. We've tied up with the NGO. Our trainers also come, and we try to infuse a lot of self-esteem in our own, because if we want our women to take care of the society's women, they need to be mentally strong to begin with. They need to believe in themselves, and that is one major thing that we have started. The Consul General of Netherlands spoke about capacity building in police stations and having some welcoming aspect. I am very happy to tell you that we have welcome desks at all, has a very negative impact on the already collapsed women, because nobody approaches a police station in a happy state of mind or when they are in a very good space. It is only in distress, in deep distress, and especially in matters of husband and wife or family problems, the woman always feels that she is the arbiter and upholder of all values and holding together, and if she has a problem and she goes to the police station, then it is going to be the beginning of the end of the family, and it is her responsibility to take the battering or to take the wrongs and yet continue and have faith and hope in some eternal power that is going to correct all this. So this also needs to be confronted, and of course not confrontation not for the sake of breaking families, but to give us strength. And I think, ma'am, pardon me, but I have this feeling that our mothers are also extremely responsible to, when they bring up children. If it is a boy, it seems that there is a tilt towards the son, and then hiding his mistakes all the time and making him a wrong person. And that faulty personality then enters into a marital union, and it continues to harbor notions of inequality and patriarchal bent of mind. And I think all this NGOs need to play a major role rather than, I mean, you are welcome to train the police. The NGOs are very fond of training police officers and men, but we are also capable of training our own people. We need your help to reach out to those sections of the society where we can't reach, where we don't have a legal role, or we don't have a legal authority, or we, for example, ma'am, let me tell you, we are working with some people approached me recently. What happens is sometimes when an accused is a woman and she is taken into custody, so her children suddenly are in a problem because the mother is gone, and the father is normally not used to the mother not being there and taking care of the children, or most of the time if the mother is being arrested, the father is already arrested, or he is absconding, or he is not existing only. So now in this situation, we can't give any support to the child who is suddenly motherless or is in the prison or in the police station. Many times we find that women complainants come to the police station, but they are not ready to file an FIR or a complaint. And there has been a huge debate over whether the police should take up the role of a counselor and try to bring people on both sides together. That is very senior High Court, Supreme Courts have said that this is not the mandate of the police. The mandate of the police is to register the offence as it is disclosed, investigate, and put the person to trial. So at that point of inception where the complainants are coming, we are trying to evolve some kind of a template where we can work in tandem with the women and child department, etc. But there are limitations when we work, because we work 24/7, whereas some departments have very severe time restrictions which are further shortened by their own personnel. So availability at odd hours of institutions which support women is a major challenge which is being faced at the police station level, and we are trying to work on that. Madam, it is an extremely good theory that women are equal to men, but it needs to be put into practice. And it needs to be put into practice right in the house where the girl and the boy is brought up together, from the beginning. For example, in many households, when responsibilities are divided between a girl child and a boy child, there is a lot of gender discrimination. And more often than not, it is the mother who is doing this gender discrimination. That, hey, kaam tuza nahi. This work is not yours, this work is yours. So all work is of each gender is something which needs to be ingrained in the children right at the inception when they're growing, because as per very famous psychologist, father of psychology, Sigmund Freud, mindsets are crystallized by the age of 7 or 8. So this period between 0 and 8 is very crucial if we want to improve the mindset of men. Unfortunately, we don't have any role in that, but the lack of role or the lack of focus on that area puts a lot of pressure on our institutions subsequently when people grow up. We are, as far as the Mumbai police is concerned, I would like to share a few initiatives that we have been doing for a very long time. Madam, for us, safety of the girl child and safety of the woman is a very, very high priority, and we are enforcement of the laws which give protection to women, be it the Dowry Prohibition Act, or be it the Prevention of Cruelty Against Women, be it the POCSO, which is of sexual offences, prevention of sexual offences. It is a very high priority. We have trained not only our women police officers, but men officers as well. The Government of India, the Government of Maharashtra also has made it a very high priority. SOPs which you mentioned have been put in black and white, specified as a matter of legal order as to what steps need to be followed. There are checkpoints and checklists, and I am very proud to say that our conviction rate in these offences is the highest amongst all the other IPC offences or special offences. We are holding meetings of women victims and women complainants. We make a list of the victims or complainants of women who have reported any sort of problem to a police station, and on Saturdays we contact them, we call them in groups of 10, 15, 20, 50 as the case may be, so that there is a sharing of a problem for them also. They don't feel that she is the only victim in the society and the rest of them are making merry. And we are also keeping the investigation officer or the police officer who is dealing with her problem present at that time, so that if he finds that her expectations of the law enforcement agency are falling short of, then he is asked as to what is the issue by the superior officer, the police station in charge, or the ACP or the DCP, and we are trying to bridge the gap between the expectations and service delivery as far as the women complainants are concerned. You mentioned about the Nirbhaya project. We are taking a lot of strides in the Nirbhaya project. We have Nirbhaya squads in all the 100 odd police station units of Mumbai police, patrolling areas of footfall where women often, it is close to the local railway stations or bazaars or such other places. As far as safety of women in public spaces is concerned, it is squarely 100% our responsibility. I am very happy to share the sentiment of women in Mumbai. Anant will bear me out.
Yes.
Most of the women who are living in the city of Mumbai and who especially have come recently in the city of Mumbai from elsewhere, various parts of the country, do give us the feedback that they feel very safe in the city and find Mumbai as the safest city. Well, the credit of this goes to a large number of my predecessors and the predecessors in the force who have been working for the last 10, 15, 20, 50 years and building a culture of injecting safety into the society, a culture that any problem of any woman in the society is the problem of the police, and undeniably rushing to their help and assistance at any hour, be it of the day, night, or midnight. We are also, Madam, very recently we've sanctioned in each police station we are making a small area which will help, which will give a special space to a woman complainant, because when she comes to the police station, it is not just the registration and investigation of offences, but it is very, very important to counsel her and to give her mental strength, and therefore a counselling space, a earmarked separate counselling space is being developed in most of the police stations wherever we are struggling with space. Mumbai, everyone struggles with space. So within that struggle of space, we are trying to do that. We have sanctioned funds for each police stations. We have given the work to the Police Housing Corporation, and it should start. We, on this forum, we have people like Sri Aadhar Kendra, we have Dr. Prashant Navade from. We would like to have some agency do some survey in Mumbai, in various parts of Mumbai, especially where footfalls of women are high or the incidence of crime against women in public spaces is high. And we would like to like them to share that data with us so that we can intensify our work zones in those areas and see to it that the problems get reduced and the index of safety as far as women is concerned goes higher. I think I've exceeded my time, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing some practical experiences.
Madam, we have to be only practical. Theory is left for all who discuss a lot. And
right, sir. And also you shared some best practices by Mumbai Police, but we have a long way to go, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the onus is ours.
Thank you. We have joined by Honorable Dr. Elena Remeza, Vice Consul, Russian Consulate. So may I request Dr. Archana Patil to present her with a floral bouquet.
That's a very nice color.
Now we are into this second session of open discussion. May I request Honorable Dr. Elena Remeza to share her thoughts.
Thank you very much. Respected Madam, respected audience, I'm really glad to be here today, and I would like to start from the thankful words to the Indian team of Women 20. On behalf of the Russian team of Women 20, I would like to say thank you very much to all persons, first of all, to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of course, because he supports women and children very strongly, and we know it very well. To the Ministry of Women and Child Development, to Sherpa of G20, Mr. Amitabh Kant, we met him several times and discussed women's issues. And to the chair of W20 of India, Dr. Sandhya Puchera, and the W20 Secretariat, personally Chief Coordinator Mrs. Dhariti Pantiak and all the team. And of course, during these very interesting meetings on Women 20, we discussed various topics. And this topic which we discussed today very important also. We have to think about this, I think, especially with the background on pandemic lessons. In Russia, one of the main institutions that protects the rights of women is the Human Rights Commissioner, and this position is now held by women. According to the Commissioner of Human Rights, during the pandemic and self-isolation, the number of cases of domestic violence increased by 2.5 times. It should also be borne in mind that many women are either afraid to seek help or forced to take back their requests to police under pressure from their husbands and family. And because usually women are determined to preserve the family, especially if they have children, and therefore it's never possible to say exactly how many acts of violence against women occur every day around the world. However, it's a global problem and the task for each state to protect women. In Russia, there is strict punishment, both in the civil and criminal code, for the use of violence, including domestic violence, the punishment of which includes, among other things, taking into prison up to 2 years. However, violence cannot be dealt only by the administrative measures, as Mr. Phansalkal said also, and it's very important to ensure women have access to high education, which is not only provides qualification but also understanding of their rights. So it was found that the level of violence that women have experienced over the course of their life or over the last 12 months decreases as their level of education increases. It's also very important to combat barriers in society against victims of violence. Open care centers, both governmental and non-governmental, to provide legal and psychological support to women. And thus, combating domestic violence requires an integrated approach on the part of the state from one side and on the non-government organizations from other side. And I'm very happy that Ms. Joshi today provides very important information to us about the activity of this organization, and I hope we can be included somehow into this very important activity. Also, I would like to make a proposal because recently you know that 7 countries became part of the BRICS. Of course, we have Women 20 during inside of the G20, but in the BRICS level we do not have this yet. And maybe this can be a good proposal from Indian side we can address, and from Russian side too, to create a kind of the international women rights council, for example, to protect the rights of women and children. And I'm sorry to bring some political note in this my short speech, but I would like to maybe say to Consul General of France and to other persons who are interested in the situation in Ukraine about the children and women to find out information about the Madonna of Donbass and the Alley of Angels, which is dedicated to the children which were killed for since 2015 to 2022 in Donbass region by Ukrainian government, and no one other country would like to say any words or protect these children. Thank you very much. Sorry to finish on such political note. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now request Dr. Prashant Narnavre, Commissioner, Women and Child Development Department, Government of Maharashtra, to share his experiences.
Honorable Dr. Mr. Neelam Gore, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Maharashtra Legislative Council, Your Excellencies, the Consular General of various diplomatic enclaves, my senior distinguished officers, learned members of NGOs, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that the concept of feminist foreign policy was evolved and propounded by Margot Wallström, the former Swedish foreign minister and foreign policy expert. It's aimed at promoting good practices and achieve gender equality. At first, we know that Sweden, Canada, France, Netherlands and Mexico have taken up to promote feminist foreign policy, and as my one of the distinguished a member of the August gathering talked that UN Security Council Resolution 1325 focuses on raising the status of women and mainstreaming the gender. Similarly, the Sustainable Development Goal number 5, achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls, also orient us towards the women issues. In 2011, we know that 45 countries joined hands to sign the Istanbul Convention, and recently European Union adopted gender equality policy, which is going to shape all the domestic policies from 2022-25. Friends, we all know that the Indian commitment to women cause is well embodied in the struggle of Indian independence, which was shaped by the vision of our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi. Even Indian constitution promises justiciable fundamental rights in Article 14, 15 and 16. And also the directive principle of state policy in Article 38, 39, 39A and 42. Through 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment in India in 1992, we have given 33% reservation to women in all the local bodies, and that paved way for women empowerment, especially in the political sphere. I must also say that we have two important bodies, National Commission for Women at the national level, and most of the states, we have a State Commission for Women who are given responsibility to protect women's rights and promote women empowerment as well. I must say that Maharashtra is one of the progressive states in which we give 33% reservation in police establishments, and I must congratulate my colleagues in police that Maharashtra is the only state in India which is having such progressive police-friendly policy for their own women in uniform. And therefore, I feel that our police is little more sensitive than others because of the numbers we have in police force. At the same time, we also provide the similar reservation in civil services as well, so that empowers women to come in the administrative realm indeed. Also, I must say that in 2007, in Libya, under the aegis of United Nations, we sent all women police force. So that is one of our gesture to say that yes, we care for women, and we care for women not only in domestic realm but also on the international fora. However, I must say that we have to do a lot. India being a traditional society, even our own NFHC survey, National Family Health Survey, says that around 29.3% married women in India face domestic violence, and around 86% of domestic violence cases are never reported. Even 3.1% of pregnant women face domestic violences, even in the condition of pregnancy. States like Karnataka, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra are having very high incidences of domestic violence, and therefore we have to take help of the umbrella of laws that we have. Some of them are like Domestic Violence Prevention Act, our IPC, Indian Police Code, Dowry Prohibition Act, Sexual Harassment at Workplace, PETA, Prevention of Immoral Trafficking Act, POSCO. These are some of the legal framework that we have for protection of women. In 2005, I must say that we have taken a great leap in providing property rights by amending Hindu Succession Act. And now all women are having equal rights in property of their fathers. So I feel that we have from independence to today we took a long time to give equal rights of property. That is very much important for taking the women out of the vulnerability. Under the eminent leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, we are taking up two very ambitious projects, Mission Shakti and Mission Vatsalya. So these are the projects which are envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister. Under these projects, we have already started Women Helpline. 112 will be a central helpline which will be coordinating all the police stations and other authorities in days to come, and the work is already started. Women-friendly police stations, as my senior colleague told, that we have, and in many of the districts, these women-friendly police stations are already started. In 144 police stations all over Maharashtra state, we have a special counseling centers for women. So whenever women are in distress, they can directly go to these counseling centers, and from these counseling centers only, then they need to approach to the police. And these all counseling centers are well within the premise of the police stations to make little more friendly towards them. In all the 36 districts of Maharashtra, we have one-stop center, and this one-stop center is an institution like a motherly home for each and every woman. She can come to this one-stop center 24 hours, anytime she faces any particular issue. Similarly, we have for domestic violence, for prevention of domestic violence, we have protection officers, and almost 325 protection officers are working under Women and Child Department all over Maharashtra. And also we are very closely linked with the family courts, where the woman faces several kind of abuse, especially whenever the marriage is strained. But the most disadvantaged among all the section of women are the ones who are involved in the sex trade, and that is why we are having shelter homes for their rehabilitation and for their rescue. And our brother officers and police are involved in helping us out, identifying those kind of centers and rescuing those unfortunate souls. Especially in the cities of Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, we also face the problem of foreign women coming to these shelter homes, and we need to rehabilitate them and also repatriate them to their respective countries. And therefore I feel that this forum is of great importance, wherein we can have certain kind of diplomatic exchanges. Especially we need help from countries like Bangladesh and certain East European countries where the numbers are really more. The other thing which I must say and request is that even we have cases where Indian women who are under different pretexts, they are going to foreign countries. Mainly the pretext was marriage, and though the pretext is marriage, a lot of violence and other issues these women face. And that is why I would say and offer that we would like to work with you people, so that even Indian women who are going there need to be rescued. And of course our foreign, we are having a close link with our foreign department, wherein we regularly, on a regular basis, we are looking after this issue as well. I feel that the shared understanding which will be coming out of this conference, which herald our great partnerships toward the women empowerment and women safety. And as the head of Women and Child Department in the state, I would offer my services to whatever possible way. And I am really thankful to Honorable Deputy Chairperson Madam that she gave me privilege to come here and be amongst this August gathering. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Narnavre, for sharing all the with all the participants, especially from participants from different countries, the measures and steps taken by Government of Maharashtra in women empowerment, equality, violence against women. I now request all of you who want to ask any questions or say something or express your views, you can please participate. It is now open for all.
Neelam, we have given slip to all of them, so we get written questions and then we can answer them or we can explain if it is in our purview.
We have received some questions. आपल्यापैकी काही जणांना काही प्रश्न वगैरे विचारायचे असतील तर आपण कृपया आपल्याला दिलेल्या कागदावर लिहून देऊ शकता. We have friends from media also, some NGO people all.
अजून काही एकच आले तिथे, अजून काही कोणाचा आदेश असेल तर.
I think there is one response from the floor. That do we have any worldwide policy or SOP to prevent human trafficking or drug trafficking and sexual assault worldwide, sextortion with the help of dark webs, our latest treaties? If not, then we have to plan for the same soon. Digital task force. Thank you, Ron. I think this is the basically what we are coming to some conclusion because of the deliberations by all the honorable representatives of the various consulates. So your suggestion is well taken, and we think to how to go ahead in this line, because this is all in the purview of ideally Government of India and Ministry of External Affairs. So keeping this in mind, we had invited Devendraji Fadnavis today, but he was held up in Rajasthan, but he has already promised me, and day before yesterday Honorable Chief Minister has promised me that whatever will demand, so that whatever doesn't include anything, but whatever will be our agenda, what is very relevant, that will be accepted by Government of Maharashtra, and they will take up to Government of India. So second question is, what about making the issue of domestic violence as an exception to the strict implementation of the provisions of the Hague Convention and international? I think this all needs to be discussed in more detail. Secondly, also there is one thing in Marathi, one question. Jagatik staravar gender equality was, if there is equal policy regarding gender justice, so it will be giving, it will strengthen the humanitarian support all over the world. I think that's right. It's not a question. Basically, it's a comment. It says that how can we solve the issues of gender equality, and how we can solve this issue. Actually, that is our main agenda. No? So I think all these questions are welcome. If there is anything, if somebody wants to speak regarding something more or any specific question to any honorable Consul Generals, because of course not more debate on the controversial issues. Please. Yeah, Mr. Singhania. Yeah.
Good evening, Neelam Taiji, Honorable Consul Generals, Commissioner Police. I think there's been a very interesting deliberation. I just have one or two quick points. One is that I think the awareness of the Honorable Mexican Consul General mentioned about so many degrees of violence, starting from as little as jealousy to controlling finances and thereafter. So if women are made aware of these issues, what are the links that lead to sexual violence or, violence against women. Second issue is there's a fair bit of denial. Sometimes the person who is inflicted is actually in denial that they've actually asked for it rather than that they've been inflicted upon. So social awareness, and I don't know how to deal with the social stigma, because people don't want to complain because there's a stigma attached to it. So if that can be done. And I think one very important point is mental health. So once these people are identified, if there's a program that they can be counseled and gone through it, so that at least the problem gets sorted at that level and it doesn't go to the next generation or the other family members. And I think Maharashtra already has a dedicated call number, right? Mumbai has 103.
We have 103. We also take calls on 112. In Mumbai, we take calls on 100 as well. But madam, this awareness issue, I think the target audience is huge, and the agencies that are working are very small in number. So some kind of a program where any single person who is aware should make one more person who is unaware aware, can be adding a multiplication factor to the whole awareness campaign. Otherwise, reaching to the last unaware person is going to take years.
So, and one other issue is that a lot of people, where they're dependent on their husband, they can't mention it because then they become either homeless or they don't have any ability to stand on their own feet. So jobs for women, empowering women would really help them have a voice of their own, and therefore they will able to stand up to any violence at home or violence at work or any place else. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there is one question which I will request our honorable panelist. This question says that, of course, we have explained it in a very deliberate way. However, what is one key principle of foreign policy, and how can countries implement them effectively in their international relations? I think I will give one minute to each panelist so that it will be reiterated more. This is question by one of the delegates. Is it okay, Adolfo? Yeah, please.
So what is the, if I understand correctly,
what is the one key principle? Okay, there are many, but what is the one key principle of the foreign policy, and how can countries implement them effectively in their international relations?
Yeah, I would say that the key issue is promoting equality in foreign policy interactions. Equality within the foreign ministry, that would mean parity, you know, in, for instance, in the appointments of ambassadors, consul generals, and visibility of the work of women officials, and the promotion of equality, the mainstreaming of gender equality in everything that we do. That would be the core principle.
How you can reflect into international relations?
How can you
implement effectively in the international relations? How it has changed your international policy?
Well,
before the feminist foreign policy and after the feminist foreign. See, our people are very clever, so it is not that
So this has been an issue for a long, long time, but it's being being addressed for a long time, and there are changes. There are, in Indonesia alone, we have 4 consulates general and embassy, all are headed by women. So that would not have been the case even 10 years ago. So while there are still strides to happen, so much has been done, and even my being here as a woman, as a head of post, is evidence of that. So good work is being done, it really is, and we can continue to build on that, which we all are. So well done for how we're progressing, and we keep it going.
Good, thank you.
Prime Minister Julia Gillard.
Yes.
And the one thing I would say to that question is we really need to make sure that every time we come up with a new policy, every time we think about our foreign policy and our foreign policy decisions, we have to analyze them through the lens of saying what is the impact going to be, not just generally, but differentiated based on gender, and understand that the impacts of our policy decisions are different for women and for men, and for the LGBTQI community as well. And just we have to think about that as we make policy decisions.
And I feel it is happening, absolutely. It's really...
It absolutely is, and I would also say that Canada as well has fully 50% of our heads of missions are women now, and that was part of the planning process because of that.
Anybody wants to add? Yeah.
Well, actually, it's sort of been said. I think if you want to eradicate inequality, that's what I said before. We are mainstreaming this concept of ruling out any discrimination between sexes, but also, as you mentioned, other minority groups. If you define a policy on whatever topic, this should be an issue to take into account. So that is basically what we are doing nationally. And of course, what we can do internationally is raise awareness for this fact and make other countries do the same.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree with our Mexican colleague that mainstreaming is a key issue. It's important to have women ambassadors. It's important also to have women at lower stages of their career, also well promoted and having given the best chances to have a good job and not to be discriminated. That's absolutely key. So that's mainstreaming, but not only for the top positions in foreign ministries, but everywhere. The second point is, I think, is accountability. And when we take, we countries, engagement, when we say we are going to follow this path, we have to report regularly. That's why we organized the Beijing Plus 25 summit 2 years ago in Paris and in Mexico, because it's important that the international community, when it decides things, regularly make sure that we are going forward in the right direction. And among accountability, there is also something which is absolutely key, which is we have to punish people responsible for bad behavior, internally and internationally. And I have to go back to this. What does Russia in Ukraine is absolutely unacceptable. We have to take the women perspective from this conflict as from others. I spent a lot of my career in Africa working with blue helmets who have been trained specifically to see all the problems they have to face and all the peacekeeping issues they have to face through the women's lens, and that's absolutely key that we carry on working on these issues for blue helmets because they represent the international community, but we have to see it also for countries responsible for using sexual violence, violences against women, as a means of terror against another population, which is the case for the Russian army in Ukraine. Thank you very much.
There is one response from the floor. There is a group of women who have been working on climate for women change. And there was a BMC project which was taken up by the municipal commissioner, and then their delegates have been invited today. So they are asking whether, being part of Women Climate Collective, we have learned that leadership and mentorships groups are highly important. The trained ladies from various amenities can then educate and empower more women at the higher or the local level. I think the answer has been given by the delegates themselves, and the issue which was raised by Vivekji, that how we can reach to more and more audience, that needs to be, definitely we'll take up that issue.
Madam, one more point. A lot of people mentioned over here about making the woman standing on her feet economically, so that she has the courage to go and complain and not take things. So I think there is a slight difference of opinion as far as I am concerned in the focus, because it is not about she being able to complain and walk out and break the house and all. That is not the objective finally of gender mainstreaming or gender equality or creating equal spaces. What is important is to train the men. The focus of making women economically independent is only one aspect, but the men need to be trained to treat her at par with respect and dignity, so that these problems she doesn't have to walk. I mean, we have to make that conducive. Otherwise, this solution means that women start walking out everywhere, houses start breaking down because she is now independent and she can. That is not the objective. The society will suffer.
Any comment from the panel?
Yes, so one comment. I think that the key issue is the development of women and education, of course, of women, of men, of governmental organization also, and in international level we have to adopt best practice from other countries, of course, in this field. It's very, very important, my point of view.
think I will make the concluding comments now. See, there are three aspects of all the discussion. First is how do we go ahead about the feminist foreign policy, and I think all of us are. This is not the, I would say, ideal platform to go to the last decision of finalization, but we can definitely maybe on 17th or 18th number of steps through which we can try to accelerate the process, and so that I will expect from the group either to put in whatever way on the social media, on the website, that there was a discussion, and as a legislature also will try to share this procedure, and a deputy chairperson we are giving recommendation to Honorable Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Ministers that this needs to be consulted, and this can Government of think and go to the larger platform, that is Government of India, number one. Secondly, in G20 declaration, I read many of the points what we already discussed. It has not spelled directly about the feminist foreign policy, but they are talking about gender-based violence. The G20 declaration is talking about digital technology use. Also, they are talking about economic empowerment. So, the umbrella or the feminist foreign policy is the international agenda that seeks to disassemble the male-dominated systems of foreign aid, trade, immigration, defense and diplomacy that continue to sideline women and minorities across the globe. Now the issue which was raised, that about the rights and representation, and also the UN global system in sustainable development goals, they have declared that up to 2030 there will be 50% women in every sector of the life, every sector, whether it is economic, social, educational, thing like that. So we, after 2015, I feel that there is a transformation of the global agenda. The issue of whether woman is coming out of the home, or the issue if only man wants to have relationship with a man or a woman wants to have relationship with a woman, people are coming to conclusion that that is none of other people's business. They want to decide for their own life, whether we like or we don't like. We means the society. Secondly, the governments are also slowly, I would say, all over the world, they have gone towards the giving more rights to people with sexual choice themselves. And Government of India also has taken up it quite seriously, and because of the maybe Supreme Court, but basically our social welfare department is supposed to look after the third gender issues, and there are many schemes which are coming through social welfare department also. So I will not go into all the debates, but I do feel that feminist foreign policy is not something like a offshoot of a tree, but it is having a symbiotic relationship with what is happening in home and what is happening in abroad, and it is having total connection with each other, with every issue. And when it comes to patriarchy, it is divided into many aspects of the life. It cuts across religion, it also influences through media, it also influences through education, it also influences through family system, it also influences through marriage system, it also influences through economic system, it also influences through administration, politics, every aspect. Now the issue is that what we can change and what we cannot change, and into the gambit of legal framework, feminist foreign policy gives us a space to create dialogue, to create systems, to create institutional mechanisms in law enforcement machinery, in external affairs ministry, different provisions, and also to provide security for people in vulnerable situations. It gives us mandate. Any policy is very important because that gives us mandate to work. Also, it speaks about, as per my knowledge goes, what I read about that, the Canadian government has put lot of support for feminist foreign policy to implement within country also. And what our representative spoke about the Gender Equality Forum in France, and also in what happened in Mexico, what I read in the net, and being the ECOSOC status with the UN, more than 80,000 young women participated in the France Gender Equality Forum, and millions and trillions of dollars have been put for the gender equality development programs. So now what I feel is that it is one of the steps for going towards globe having gender equality. So Government of India, I am sure that with the G20 initiative and so many having answerability with many countries and also having better relations. Definitely one day I don't feel that it is far away that Government of India will not come to that conclusion. It may take some time, but sometimes to our surprise it has also happened that government tries to listen to different voices, and the issue of how to identify a woman that she is facing violence. That is the basic issue. Every delegate has mentioned that, but I sometimes feel, being coming from politics also, sometimes violence is so inbuilt within themselves. People think that they are being very clever by becoming violent. I have also seen many people that intellectual violence is there. The person may not be physically beating her, but he or she will so much so influence each other, and then they will say that she may commit suicide on herself only. So now things are that in the same way the violence can be sometimes in the both the ways, because when it comes to jealousy within family, so we are not talking, or I don't think anybody is talking about just coming out of the family and staying together, because in COVID we have learnt when every member of the family is under a shadow of dying, how much pain we felt. How much pain we felt, how much lonely people felt.
Madam, in COVID, domestic violence rise was reported.
Yes, rise was reported because all the time men were in the home 24 hours.
That is my
Nobody
point.
went out. So
That is my point. We need to focus on improving men and their attitudes.
So the thing is that, the issue is that, that's why what you said, that is right, that how to influence men. But for, we are looking at you not only for influencing police, but we are looking at you to influence men, because we have learned that only we will say that sometimes, but you know, it is not the story. I have also come across many brothers, father, even husband, who will say that, okay, my sister has been helped by organization, and I know a man who sells fruits still in Rajguru Nagar market, and because his sister was supported by us, he is so transformed. Whenever he gets a woman in distress, he sends us to the organization. He is just a fruit vendor. So there are people, I came across many constables, Vivekji, who has said that we know the law and we do on our own. Sometimes we don't get time to tell to our superiors, but we do our work. So there are changes happening, but it is slightly slow. But we have to work proactively, and I agree with you totally that we need to do more comprehensive and larger impact. And how to make that impact along with the social media. I think all the stakeholders are in the room. So when we are coming to rural areas, there is Vaidehi from Palghar. This Ummed and Rural Development Department, they are doing good work. And with economic empowerment, women are also getting more and more courage. But also the changing of the men's attitude. There is a campaign in UN, He for She campaign. There is also another campaign, White Band campaign, where men take initiative regarding this. It is very slow process. Why? Because though all our honorable consulate general representatives here, our Indian people are very, I would say, very shy of making household support work for women. So all over the world, the men are giving 4 hours, 5 years. That is because of the comments in the home. So what I feel
they don't allow us to enter the kitchen.
Vivekji, now you are a very clever chap, so don't say anything. So along with that, so even paternity leave, we are having 15 days paternity leave, but many women say that if this husband will be in the home for 15 days, he will create more work. So instead of better let him go home. So that is not something their fault, because they know that he is not going to be helpful. But now there are men, I come across young people that they take paternity leave and they try to learn how to change the diaper first. So it is not something all the men are like that only, no. Lot of men are changing and I have seen them, so I feel very hopeful about that. So keeping this in mind, how to go ahead with this. First aspect I said about the feminist foreign policy. Second I said to create a strengthened community system. That's why I invited many social workers from the hospitals today basically, because they are meeting people. You will be able to see or you will be able to meet women who may be facing violence, but she is not able to spell out. So you have to also see to it or make a diary how you can identify the symptoms of violence, and then you can be helpful to them through counseling or other ideas. And third, I would look after towards women and child department, that if we can have something like a coordination or facilitating unit within women and child department, with all the consulate general representatives from your delegate, who will be able to explain them what are the repercussions of the feminist foreign policy. So if there are migrant women coming from these countries, how are they can help them, number one, with the lawyer. And we'll need, I invited Rohan, Devayani, lawyers basically, who will be able to understand more international law, and then they can be helpful for using the legal SOPs through the legal lawyers over there. Because I came across Maharashtra Mandal in London, they have got already 4 to 5 lawyers with them, and they are ready to help women directly or indirectly also. So we have to create a liaison through which, because women's commissions are also having their own limitations. So women and child department along with the police, if we are able to take more initiative regarding this, that will be quite helpful. And what we are thinking to request Honorable Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister to create some more additional fund or a corpus so that we can support women at the international level also, who may be coming from Maharashtra, and so that if they are in difficulty, some Bhagini Bhav or Bhaubiz is offered from the government of state also. And the point what Jhelum has mentioned regarding the visas. So if the single woman is there and she doesn't want to come back, why she has to be deported here? Because after she gets the judgment in the Indian court and she wants to come back there, then maybe there can be some special quota or a special mention or a special vulnerable group, that if she wants to go back and work there as a single woman also, if she was on dependent visa, but as a single woman she wants to work there and she is having a facility for the job, then she may be given visa as some, I would say, I don't want reservation, but some things I would say something as a special mention to her, so that she gets chance to live there. I have also talked with many Indian girls that why they want to stay there. Is it only for comfort? Is it only for industry? One thing, they want to have freedom. Secondly, what they say, that there is no social stigma if you are, what is your marital status. In our Indian situation, everybody will expect her to, even if she is going alone by bus, they will say you are going alone, husband is not with you. Things will take a lot of years to change. But many women after separation, they like to go and settle abroad because they don't want to answerable to anybody. And I can understand and honor their freedom of choice to stay alone also. Of course, everybody will not also like to remain single. Sometimes they get remarried, that is their own life, what they want to do. But in keeping all these issues in mind, I think how it will influence the day-to-day working for them. When I went to Norway, they mentioned me about the film of Rani Mukherjee, about the rights of a woman when she wants to, So there are many issues still it needs to be addressed, and we have not talked also, or we have not been able to hear voices of young girls who have been trafficked sometimes in different brothels and what has happened to them. So keeping this in mind, anti-trafficking unit is already there with the police at the national level, at the central level, and also at the state level, and every police station is supposed to have a anti-trafficking officer. So what type of support you are giving, and how you are able to deal with that with 189 countries in the world, and if this issue is not in every country, still maybe 30 to 40 countries are definitely having issues of anti-trafficking, because India is also provider, we are recipient, and we are also transit point. And I don't want to take names, but there are a few countries I know that people from their countries, they come to Mumbai before monsoon and they get married with young girls and they go with them, with their wives, and then they are dumped after the monsoon. So there are issues still. It has not stopped. Feminist foreign policy has happened in certain countries. I welcome and I support and I definitely encourage, and I would like to congratulate every member who has done this work regarding that. But how to address it globally, it still is a very big task, not only for the governments, also for the society. So I think it was something a very, very ambitious thing for me to say yes to Mr. Adolf to have this discussion. Lot of people were very confused with feminist foreign policy. I will just give you a small example. I remember after sometime in 90s, I met a woman in United Nations gallery, and she asked me that since how many years you are attending Commission on Status of Women conference, and I said I am coming for 8 years. She said, good, I am attending it for 44 years. Then I asked her, what are your experiences? She told me that I was here in the same United Nations balcony here sitting with the NGOs, and in 1975 United Nations declared that this is going to be International Women's Year. Then UN declared that it is going to be International Decade, and she said that I met there many delegates, prime ministers, also presidents, and some of them used to come here 10 years. In 1985 she again met some of them in the balconies and the lobbies, and one of the delegates asked her that, Madam, now as International Women's Decade has finished, does that mean that everything will become normal now? So for them, 10 years of International Women's Decade or feminism or women's right is something abnormal. So, but it is not going to change now. It is going to change in a different way only. So keeping all this in mind, I think feminist foreign policy happens as soon as possible. It will be good, and I expect, see, Mr. Vivek Phansarkar, you have to take initiative. You cannot take every responsibility on Narnavre, because if there is, as a Mumbai Police Commissioner, if you have come to the opinion, then you can always support cyber.
Already into it, ma'am.
Yeah, you are already. So I think these units must have him also in that. Even merchant chambers, they can be quite helpful. Yeah, and so because when we come across and we say that we observe certain things, Government of India, definitely our Government of Maharashtra is going to take us seriously. SOPs they have put, Devendraji put on the floor, and they have been reaching to all over in the state, SOPs regarding cyber crime, and I think it should be very helpful. So thank you so much, and we'll be able to take up this coordination team ahead whenever is possible. I want to also have one more meeting with you all regarding industries, because there are some MOUs done with every country, and those MOUs, when we counted, he said that there are 140 MOUs with the Government of Maharashtra. So we need to work something more on that. So thank you so much. Namaste. Dhanyavad.
Thank you. May I request Srimati Supriya Gotale, OSD, for vote of thanks.
We'll have one group photo. We'll have one group photo after the vote of thanks. The media wanted that photo.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event to all the dignitaries assembled here. First of all, I would like to thank chief guest of this function, Honorable Sri Rahul Narvekar sir, and after that, all the consulate general present here. Honorable Consul General of Mexico, Honorable Adolfo Garcia Estrada, and Consul General of Australia, Honorable Majel Hind, Consul General of Germany, Honorable Ajim Fabik, Consul General of Canada, Honorable Dedra Kelly, Consul General of Japan, Honorable Dr. Yasukata Fukahori, Consul General of France, Honorable Jean-Marc Serge Charlotte, Consul General of Netherlands, Honorable Bart de Jong, and Commissioner of Police Mumbai, Shri Vivek Phansarkar Sirji, Consul General of Russia, Honorable Dr. Elena Remezova, Vice Consul, Commissioner of Women and Child Development, Dr. Prashant Narnavre sir, Additional DG Law and Order, Sanjeev Saxena sir. I would like to thank all of you, all the social worker present here, all the advocates, all the Vidhan Bhavan staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriya. Please stand for the photo. Please join. Picture काढूया जरा. खांडेकर. It's in English. Please come. कुठे गेले? या. पुढचा काढा. पुढचा काढा. विवेक कुठे गेले? मिस्टर पांडे. या ना मला. तुम्ही पण या. विवेक या काय संवाद कुठे करता या? तुम्हाला निर्देश या.
मार्केजी या तुम्ही पण या सगळे आपण माऊ काही नाही कोणचा आहेत त्यांनी हे करा.
I would also like to thank Suhas Warke sir. Thank you for the.
जास्त वेळ गेला मान्य आहे, वेळ जास्त गेला मान्य आहे. मुंबईत काय चाललंय काय माहित नाही आपल्याला. काय झालं या नाही एवढ्या
No, in May. I went to your wonderful
काढला एक अर्ध्या मिनिटाची व्हिडिओ काढला का? थँक्यू धन्यवाद. थँक्यू सो मच.